You've just entered the Actual Zone Arcade. We're closing in on the end of the Mario 40th Anniversary Superspective. This thing sure has come a long way over the last 6 months, and after covering New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U last episode, it's time we talk about the next big 3D game. So, what's the deal with Super Mario 3D World? 2013, as I'm sure you know by this point, was Nintendo's worst year for profit since they entered the console business. And no, it's not Luigi's fault, okay? It was all just bad timing. Don't worry, my glorious king, you'll get another year dedicated to you. There are a few factors at play here. The 3DS's slow start, which only really picked up by the time 2012 came around, the decline and eventual discontinuation of the Wii, and the Wii U's... yeah. But there was still hope on the horizon. Even though games like Minecraft and Call of Duty dominated the industry at the time, Mario was still that guy, so game fans around the world waited with bated breath for his next 3D move. I mean, this would be the first console 3D Mario platformer following Galaxy 2, so it had to be big. The game was teased in the January Direct of 2013, alongside Mario Kart 8 and other Wii U titles, then had its full reveal that June. Some fans were not super impressed by it, to say the least. This just wasn't the follow-up to the illustrious Galaxy series some were hoping for. But why isn't it? I mean, those were some of the best and most critically acclaimed games in the series up to that point. Well, following 3D Land's development, the team liked the idea of a game that bridges 2D design sensibilities with a 3D space, and wanted to bring it to consoles. So, in effect, this game was going to be more of a follow-up to that than anything. So, the team at Nintendo EAD got cracking, aided once again by Brownie Brown, now 1UP Studio. Much better name. With over 100 members of staff planning and coming up with different scenarios and mechanics, this game had a robust development cycle complete with regular testing sessions. One of the mechanics revolved around the new featured power-up, the cat suit. The idea for this came about fairly early in development, when considering how Mario would move and interact with the world this time. As a proud, but also sometimes very disappointed, cat dad, seriously, why are you two the way you are sometimes? This game just struck the right chord. Though apparently the moveset potential wasn't the only reason they went ahead with the catsuit idea. You see, Princess Peach is playable in this game, sorry, spoilers, for the first time in 3D and the first time overall since Super Mario Bros. 2. So, Shigeru Freaky-Moto over here expressed his interest in having her playable because, and I quote, "Cat women have a sexy side to them and I wanted to see what a feline Peach would look like." First of all, he's spitting, but also, I know what you are, Miyamoto. Another power-up, the Double Cherry, was also implemented, but as a mistake and closer to the end of development at that, when a member of staff loaded in 2 identical character models into a test stage. The team liked this anomaly enough to actually make it a feature, so task failed successfully? I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for this moment. And so with all that testing and implementation and strange fantasies about women in catsuits, Super Mario 3D World released on November 21st, 2013 in Japan, the following day in North America, November 26th in Brazil, November 29th in Europe, and the day after that in Australia. And it's a day I actually remember pretty well. Yeah, it's backstory time. This was actually the first Mario game where I followed the hype cycle from initial reveal up to release, keeping up with all the news, updates, and speculation for it. This was the year where I really started getting into Nintendo the way I am now, so I felt really strongly about this game. But it wouldn't be for another year after it released that I'd finally get to play it. As you'll know from the previous episodes in this series, I got my Wii U for my birthday in 2014, though I wouldn't get this game until that Christmas. Of course, I got it alongside the new Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and a whole bunch of action figures. Sneaky and impatient as I was back then, I remember going up to my parents' room where they were hiding our already wrapped Christmas presents in plain sight. The big day was only 5 days out and I just finished school. It was a half day, so I got back early, and while everyone else was busy, I took a peek. Just the tiniest tear in the corner of the wrapping, and I saw a smidge of that colourful cover. I knew what it was instantly and was geeked out of my mind. Now look, I'm not proud of it looking back, and it sucked having to pretend I didn't know when the time came to open it for real. But I still light up inside every time I think about that moment of seeing the case in person for the first time. To this day, I have no idea if they knew I did this, since I'm not sure if the bad tape-up job afterwards gave it away. Anyway, I actually couldn't play the game for a little while since my disk drive broke just a couple days before. Maybe that was my karma for peaking. I was kinda devastated, but thankfully I was given the option to just get the digital version for one of the new games, and send the physical one back. I chose Smash 4 and proceeded to play nothing but that for the next half year at least. Thankfully, I got another console for my birthday in 2015, and this is the one I'm still rocking to this day. 10 years strong. And dusty. Very dusty. Okay, so maybe not that strong. I got it along with a pre-order of the Super Mario Maker Amiibo bundle, the first game I ever pre-ordered. In the meantime, I caught up with this game and played it all the way through. And yeah, I wasn't disappointed. The visuals, the music, the gameplay, it was all there and then some. At one point, this might have been a top 3 Mario game for me. I would dip back into it occasionally to screw around in multiplayer with my brothers. Shout out to you guys if you're watching. And no, the next meal ain't on me. Then, I played all the way through it again and through World Star in anticipation for Mario Odyssey's release in 2017. But then once that game came out, I dropped 3D World for another 3 years before playing through it again. This was for my little pre-lockdown Mario marathon. I came away from it feeling satisfied once again, even with this more critical mindset I started to adopt at the time. This game just hit all the right notes, even if it wasn't perfect and definitely had its flaws. Then, well, I'm sure you know what's next if you've watched this series up to this point. Here are my thoughts after I played through it in the Mariothon stream series.
So that was it, Super Mario 3D World. Final thoughts, look man, I don't care what anybody says, alright? This right here is my second favorite 3D Mario game. It is just so goddamn fun from beginning to end. The power-ups are peak. They're some of the best power-ups I think we've ever had in a Mario game, 2D or 3D. The levels are really fun because it takes the idea of like having the standard like New Super Mario Bros. Structure, but then it flips it on its head and makes some really unique levels out of it. Like you had that one Mario Kart level which was really fun. You had that more open-ended level that was pretty awesome. Like there's a lot of just really good levels. I think, you know, if you haven't played this game yet, you should definitely give it a shot. Play it. You can play it on your own. You can play it with friends. Playing with friends can be very chaotic though, so be warned. But you know, it's a good time regardless. It's a really fun game. Would definitely be down to come back to this for 100% at some point in the future. But for now, for this Mariothon, that's going to be it for the 3D World playthrough.
My second favorite 3D Mario game, huh? Pretty big claim from 2023 me. But does 2025 me agree? And after committing to that 100% run I mentioned there, we once again find ourselves in the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's a beautiful night with shooting stars as Mario and the gang go to a firework display. A curious clear pipe stands in their path, and the Mario Bros finally do some plumbing work in a mainline game to fix it. It only took 30 years for these bums to actually do their job. Incredible. The pipe spurts out a whole bunch of new random items, followed by a Sprixie princess. She's clearly stressed the hell out, but before anyone else can figure out what's going on, Bowser comes in to put her in a jar. And no, I am not going to make the obvious joke here. So then Peach, after realizing that Bowser forgot to kidnap her for the 100th time, goes right in after them, followed by Mario, Toad, and then Luigi. Soon enough, they all find themselves in a strange new land, the Sprixie Kingdom. The group goes between each of the kingdom's 7 worlds, freeing one of the Sprixies in each until they're all rescued. But the victory is cut short when Bowser gets out the Mega Nut Jar and traps all 7 Sprixies inside. Okay, maybe I'm not above it. Our heroes give chase once again only to end up in Bowser's newly built theme park. Guess he shared some notes with Dr. Eggman during those Olympic Games. The journey culminates with the climb up the Great Tower of Bowserland, where the Koopa King reveals his fursona. He pulls out all the stops, but buckles under the power of the POW block. With him out the picture, the Sprixies and their kingdom can return to peace, and the squad gets their fireworks show. Happy endings all around. But what's that I spot in the top left corner? Wonder if that will somehow become relevant during the gameplay segment. This game by default has a much more interesting plot than most of the previous titles. Sure, it still revolves around kidnapped princesses, and even if we never find out why Bowser wants them, it makes for a story that stands out as something different. The new setting also helps this. Just generally feels more fresh when pretty much all my plot summaries have been Bowser kidnapped Peach, go do Mario things and save her. Again, not that story really matters or that it's even a bad thing this series has that formula, just glad to see a bit of a switch up. When it's all said and done, the story is still really just a vehicle to contextualize the gameplay. So, what's the deal with that gameplay? Like I mentioned near the start, this game is basically a sequel to Super Mario 3D Land, so the control style and movesets are basically the same. We have 4 playable characters this time around. Mario, whose stats are pretty much the baseline for everyone else. He has no notable strengths or weaknesses, just the most everyman to ever everyman. Luigi has his low traction and high jump back again after what feels like forever, though I guess technically he got it back in Luigi U first, so there's that. Peach is the slowest character, but starts her sprinting state the fastest, and has the ability to float just like in Super Mario Bros. 2. Then there's Toad, Blue Toad specifically, who's the fastest character with the shortest jump. Once again keeping that Super Mario USA tradition alive and well. Okay, I lied. There's actually 5 playable characters, but let's be honest, you knew that already. Seeing the Comet Observatory after you beat the main game isn't just a coincidence. Once you get to Star World, the second level has Octo Goombas to fight and Luma's watching you throughout. I wonder if this is all building to something. Oh, there she is. Yep, Rosalina makes her playable debut in a Mario platformer here and has similar stats to Peach. The key difference is that she gets the spin attack from Galaxy, though it's much less floaty and carries your momentum. Much better for this game's overall faster movement. This makes her the only character that has an attack without the need of a power-up. Only thing is, she can't use it if she does have a power-up equipped. That kinda sucks, but it's not the worst thing ever. And she ended up being possibly my favourite character to play as. Toad was also pretty fun, if nothing else than just to see how crazy fast I could go in some sections. For this playthrough, I actually went ahead and did it on the remastered Switch version. There are no notable differences from the Wii U game, only the character's ground and air speed have been cranked up a fair bit. I actually didn't like this at first from the times I'd occasionally play this version. I guess I was too used to how it handled on Wii U, but I do feel there are some parts of this game that feel like they weren't designed for this kind of speed. Chain Link Charge immediately comes to mind. I got used to it pretty quick for this 100% run though, and most of the praise and criticisms I have here are easily applied to the Wii U version. Like the controls, despite every character having their own stats and some having unique moves, everyone feels super fun and polished to play. The controls feel much snappier than Galaxy, but also much more rigid than 3D Land felt at times. This is a positive, since everything feels fast and fluid, but almost never unwieldy. Just like in 3D Land, you hold down the run button to move faster, but if you hold it long enough, your character will now enter a sprinting state. This is without question the fastest movement in 3D Mario, and it feels good. Characters turn and stop on a dime, apart from Luigi, so platforming even at these speeds feels reasonable. It's all super responsive and has a good weight to it, even if that weight varies from character to character. The moveset variety helps with this, since there's a tool for every platforming situation, but usually you can approach it however you like best. With the long jump, wall jump, spin jump, roll, rolling leap, backflip, side flip, ground pound, and crouch walk at your disposal, there are tons of creative ways to traverse these levels. The only major move missing here is the triple jump, but that thing would honestly break the game, not that it's particularly hard as is. The Switch port added the mid-air dive from Mario Odyssey in 64, which saved my ass on numerous occasions, even if it isn't as cracked as Odyssey's version. I feel the more recent games have struck this perfect balance of having a lot of movement options, but never being overwhelming for the player. Each of them serves a purpose, and I can think of a good number of use cases for each one. Well, except for the crouch walk. Still don't know why that's a thing. This is also the most power-ups we've ever gotten in a 3D Mario, and like all the moves, they're all used to great effect too. Say it with me, the Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Star all return and work as they always do. It just wouldn't feel right to have traditional power-ups without these classics, now would it? Returning from 3D Land are the Super Leaf, Invincibility Leaf, and Boomerang Flower. Unfortunately, they went back to having it so the Super Leaf turns you into Tanuki form right after New Super Mario Bros. 2 got it right. Hate to see it. It still lets you glide and perform the tail swipe, and the Invincibility Leaf lets you do all that and be, well... But once again, you can bet your bottom dollar I didn't touch that shit. Never have, never will. The Boomerang Flower definitely feels like it took a back seat this time, but still manages to have some interesting and satisfying uses like in 3D Land. The Mega Mushroom also returns so that you can cause giant-sized havoc, and even though it doesn't appear that much, it still gets utilized better than its debut game. Gargantuan Grotto basically revolves around it, and it has some of the most interesting applications of the power I've ever seen. Plus, seeing the Mega characters in HD for the first time was pretty rad. I already mentioned the two new power-ups offhandedly, but the Double Cherry clones your player character. This one's really just here for you to dick around with, but there may be some collectibles you can only get by having enough players standing on a Switch or platform. Obviously, if you're solo or short a player or two, that's when this power-up comes in handy. Things can get pretty hectic combining this ability with multiplayer, but we'll talk more about that in a sec. The disturbing thing is, if you die with the original character, one of the clones will just take their place. That means in all the games moving forward, we might be seeing duplicates of the gang, including Mario himself, since the originals died here. Yo, Game Theory, hit me up, I got a good one for you. Now to talk about the Super Bell. This is the USP power-up of this game, granting all the playable characters the catsuit. With this, a whole bunch of new moves and opportunities open up. In feline form, any character can use claws to attack, pounce, which can be useful for catching rabbits, claw dive for some extra aerial distance or as a long range attack, and climb up walls. This might just be the most versatile Mario power-up ever, and completely changes how you engage with each level. Looking for a way to skip sections of a level? Climb up a wall and see if there's a ledge you can claw dive from. Surrounded by enemies you gotta defeat to progress? Swipe away like they're flies on a hot summer day. And the craziest part? Every single level is designed around and perfectly accommodates these abilities. It's nothing short of masterful work that they are able to work this thing in so seamlessly. In any other game, a power-up like this would break it, but Nintendo EAD is actually just built different. So it's balanced and fun, while allowing you to go nuts if you know what you're doing. The cat designs for each character are super charming as well. You might even notice they're different cat breeds if you look closely at their patterning. Notably, Luigi's kinda got a cheetah thing going on and Rosalina is rocking the tuxedo cat look. It really works for her, but every time I see her I'm reminded of my cat Cleo. Look how stupid she is. You are now legally required to like and subscribe or you'll make her sad. It was always kinda weird to me that Mario's catsuit isn't red, but I guess the yellow scheme screams cat a little more. This power-up also has a variant, the Lucky Bell. Kinda like the statue leaf in 3D Land, this one works the same as the regular catsuit, but ground pounding turns your character into a lucky cat. Coins fly out as you crash down, which is inspired by the real-life beckoning cat. These are figurines that business owners use as a kind of luck charm in Japanese culture, even in households. I love when they work in stuff like this, really cool way to educate kids on some of the worldlier things out there. Speaking of worlds, this game has quite a few of those. So, that might win the award for worst topic transition I've done during this series. Each of these worlds has levels containing some collectibles, one of which are stamps. Every level has one of these, save for blockades, mystery houses, levels that are just a boss fight, and Captain Toad's adventures. More on him later. These will give you some nice little art pieces, and it's required to get a 100% save file. But they used to do a little more than that. You could actually use these stamps as stickers for Nintendo's Miiverse platform. You know, that was before they took it out back and... cut the footage. The main collectible is green stars, which are straight up found in every level. It seems like they did what they should have done with these things in Galaxy 2 and made them more like the New Soup series of star coins. There are 3 to find in each of the main levels, and these are just so much fun to uncover and collect. First of all, they got the difficulty scaling just right like they did in New Super Mario Bros. U. In other words, as the game goes on, they get more creatively hidden and or challenging to grab. It feels like they've been worked into the level design much more naturally too. For instance, you might find one just by following an alternate path, or by defeating enemies and exploring hidden areas. It feels less like a completely separate objective and more like part of the actual moment-to-moment gameplay, which I like. There is a reason for this though, and it's that certain levels in the final stages of each world require a number of green stars to have been collected. Thankfully, this never ends up being a grind due to how seamlessly these things are worked into the levels. You will likely get more than enough to beat the main game just by playing casually, but it doesn't take away from those that give more of a challenge. In a sense, the green stars kinda appeal to every kind of player. Those who like exploring, those looking for a bit of a challenge, completionists, and casuals. That's an incredibly impressive balancing act that few games, even within the Mario series itself, have mastered. What I will say is that it kinda means none of them stuck out too much. But I think it's less about the collectibles individually and more about what they bring to the experience as a whole. Same with stamps. And that is all the aspects I just mentioned now. These levels have no shortage of things for you to do, still having that A to B progression from the 2D games, but in the same style as 3D Land. This time, the levels are built a little more open and it generally feels like there's more to explore. They're also much more mechanically rich. 3D Land did have some gimmicky levels, but they usually didn't change up the design too drastically between them. This game will have you speeding through a fast-paced Mario Kart-inspired course 1 minute, then platforming carefully on these switchboard platforms as you make your way down a waterfall. The actual theming and aesthetics of the levels are incredibly strong this time. Not to say that 3D Land didn't have any variation, but they stuck more to the New Super Mario Bros. Formula, which didn't allow for as many creative locations as, say, the Galaxy games. This game also appears to do that on the surface, and occasionally it does. But most of the time, the levels you get here don't have much correlation to the actual world you're in. So a lot closer to Galaxy than anything. Picking a favorite course here is tough. I mean, there are 105 levels in this game, and they're some of the highest quality in the entire franchise. I think my overall favorite would have to be Sprawling Savannah, and how couldn't it be? This is one of the prettiest Mario levels of all time, with most of the level taking place in the open plains. It might seem kinda uninteresting at a glance, but there's a ton to do and explore in this place. If you're going for the collectibles here, you'll want to explore every nook, cranny, and crevice of this expanse. Plus, just moving around in this game feels great, so having this little playground to mess around in for a while is definitely welcomed. The pipe section near the end where you can just blast into a bunch of fuzzies using star power is so satisfying. That's what these assholes get for killing me so many times in spine-tingling Spine Coaster back in New Super Mario Bros. U. Some honorable mentions go to Shadowplay Alley for its super unique gimmick. Definitely some Donkey Kong Country Returns inspiration here, and I love the Bowser fake out for the last green star. Beat Block Skyway is based on those rhythm levels from Galaxy 2 and 3D Land, but this is where the idea peaked. First of all, the music for it is much better, but also the way you go along with the beat feels more natural. Last HM goes to Plessy's Plunging Falls. This level introduced the absolute GOAT of the sea, and even though they're no Yoshi, we love Plessy in this house. You gotta ride on their back through this course, grabbing green stars and making leaps of faith along the way. There are a couple of other Plessy-focused levels, and they ramp up the difficulty each time, while maintaining the fun of slipping down crazy courses. These levels are also a ton of fun on multiplayer, which also returns in this game. I kinda neglected to mention it during the last episode, but New Super Mario Bros. U's multiplayer is identical to Wii's. Both good, chaotic fun where you'll spend more time fighting your friends than any of Bowser's army. 3D World was the first time this was adapted into, well, 3D. It can be a bit of a mess. The camera cannot focus on any one player to save its life, and the only way to guarantee it does follow you is to make sure that crown adorns your head. Great, you're thinking. How do you get it? See, at the end of each stage, you and your partners will have your points tallied up. That means every enemy you defeated, star coin collected, and flagpole top reached counts. And whoever wins gets the crown for the next level. Not only does the camera focus on the crown player, but whoever wears it at the end of the stage gets extra points. I'm sure you can figure out what might happen if you have that crown on. This is like the "yo, he's still got 3 stocks left" equivalent of Mario. You're getting jumped, buddy. So yeah, they might have upped the infighting aspect even more somehow, not to mention that it's even easier to screw up your team in other ways, intentionally or otherwise. Back to the levels, there are a few different types. The mystery box levels return from 3D land, except they got out of poverty and are now mystery houses. The upgrade isn't just aesthetic though, the challenges themselves are more involved now. Usually your objective is to collect green stars either by defeating enemies or using one of the game's many mechanics. Mystery House Throwdown is focused on collecting green stars by throwing baseballs either at them or some kind of switch that brings them out, whereas Mystery House Melee and Brawl have you go fight after fight beating enemies. These are also definitely not a reference to a certain Nintendo and gaming crossover that I want to make a series like this for in the future. Keep an eye out for that. Anyway, these mystery houses are pretty fun little challenges, even if they are just here for padding's sake. Of course, this is a Wii U game, so there's a lot of gamepad shenanigans here. Like there are some levels that revolve around using the mic to blow on these platforms, or use the gamepad to bring these blocks out. But there is an entire set of levels focused around it. Yep, the Captain Toad adventure stages. So yeah, remember that little NPC from the Galaxy games? Now he's kind of a big deal. Hell, these side stages here would get the guy his own game around a year later. As well as 2 completely different ports on 3DS and Switch. Talk about motion. The captain famously can't jump, probably due to that huge backpack he's always carrying. You know, you could just put it down while you get all your treasure and make this a whole lot easier, right? Well, maybe he likes a good challenge, and a good challenge these stages are. It's basically a mini puzzle platform where you'll have to deal with different enemies and conditions to get the fungal explorer all the green stars. These genuinely were a lot of fun, to the point I always do these when replaying the game, even if not going for 100%. The Switch version takes out all the gamepad mechanics. Instead, stuff you had blown before now moves on its own, and the touch mechanics are replaced with this little cursor thing. I don't think this really improves or makes the levels any worse, so it's whatever. Though it was fun screaming into the mic to make stuff happen or blow enemies away.
Do the thing again just because you can frickin' do that, and also I'm blowing back the Goombas because it looks really funny when you do that. Guys, isn't it so hilarious when I blow back the Goombas and yell into the gamepad mic? I think it's super cool and funny that you can do that.
You'll end up with a lot of green stars after Captain T's adventures, and you'll need every last one in order to see the extra content. There are 4 unlockable special worlds this time: World Star, World Mushroom, World Flower, and World Crown. As is Mario tradition, these are the hardest in the game and will kick your ass more and more relentlessly as you go. World Star is already a pretty noticeable increase in difficulty going from World Bowser, but it only spikes higher and higher. World Flower was a marathon to get through. 12 stages of pure adrenaline pumping difficulty, ending off with a boss rush level with a very strict time limit. You get a crack at every major boss aside from old King Koopa himself here. Boom Boom is back again after New Soup U in 3D land, and he fights mostly the same as he did there. But now, like I mentioned back in that episode, he can create some shadow clones, which I suspect Pom Pom taught him. Speaking of her, we get to see more of those ninjutsu techniques of hers in this game. Mainly the use of shurikens instead of boomerangs, but otherwise defeating her is the same deal as before. Histocrat comes in both a pink and blue variant, and you gotta platform up their plate-headed subordinates to give them the drop. These fights are made a lot easier with the catsuit, so make sure you got one on you at all times. The last notable one I want to talk about is Motley Boss Blob, a super unique encounter that has you getting chased around by this metallic blob jester-like guy. Crazy collection of adjectives aside, he becomes vulnerable after trying to ground pound you, and breaks into pieces. That's where the guy underneath it all is revealed, and you can do damage, as well as grab some double cherries for insurance. Every boss takes 3 hits to put down, as is basically Mario tradition at this point. But each fight is super unique to themselves, complete with multiple phases, even if there aren't many of them overall. Then of course is Bowser himself. He drives his loud ass muscle car around for 2 of the 3 fights against him. As his Pimpmobile drives away from you, he'll throw these bombs you can launch back at him. It's the only way to deal damage as you avoid spikes in the road and his signature fire breath. As far as I know, you can't run out of road here, so just be patient and find the right timing to take him down. Pro tip, bring a catsuit to this, since the bombs do more damage to him if you kitty scratch them. In the final fight, he tries to kitty scratch you by turning into Meowser. This sure is a design. This is the least threatening the guy's ever looked, but don't be fooled. This fight is actually pretty tough. He'll constantly harass you by clawing at you or trying to crush you until you reach this power block. After dodging his fire and hitting it, you aren't even close to being out the woods yet. It's time for phase 2, where he'll use the double cherry's power to duplicate himself. Now you gotta deal with 5 Meowsers who are all more aggressive than the one from the first part. Once you reach the top of the tower, another power block awaits. Smack it a few times to end the madness once and for all. I mentioned all the way back in the Mario Land 2 episode how much I loved Wario using all the game's power-ups against you. Needless to say, I'm definitely pleased with this game revisiting that concept. And like I said back then, I wish more games would do this. Mario has such a fantastic variety of powers that I'd like to see the bad guys use. You know, actually having to play against it rather than having it as an advantage. So anyway, once you beat him and then all the challenge worlds, you gain access to another rocket. This one sends you to World Crown, where a Mystery House Marathon, Final Captain Toad level, and the hardest Mario level of all time resides. For some insight, I just beat Bowser's Fury as of the time of writing this, so I couldn't be more confident in that last statement. Champion's Road is the most soul-crushing, gut-wrenching, and sadistic level Nintendo has ever put out. If it wasn't for my at times worrying sense of resolve, I probably would have given up after the 30th attempt. And that number probably isn't even close to what it ended up being. Jumps that require near perfect timing, precision swimming, this fucking section with the keys, it's all there. I would much sooner go back and try to beat Galaxy 2's perfect run before I so much as think about attempting this again. And I had to beat it twice! You see, to get a 5-star save file, you also have to hit the flagpole with every character in every level. But, so that I didn't have to do 4 extra playthroughs of each level, I just got 4 controllers and had 2 players pick up the other 2 right as I got to the flag. You can bet your ass I did the same thing here. And you can bet double cheeks that I did it with Rosalina and Peach, since their double jumps and floats respectively made this seem plausible. Call me what you want, I get results. It ends with a classic thank you message, and that's Super Mario 3D World. What a journey. It took me about 3 weeks to fully complete, and I loved every minute of it. This game is still stunning to this day. Incredible vibrant visuals, an immaculate soundtrack, one of the best in the series, and some of the best design out there. This game genuinely does not have a single bad bone in its makeup. I honestly couldn't even give you a level I didn't like. I guess maybe Boss Blitz just because I'm not a fan of boss rushes, but it was actually a pretty good challenge. With 4-player co-op, Captain Toad levels, and mystery houses, this game just has a ton of unique content to sink your teeth into. Hell, you can even play a glorified ROM hack of the OG Mario arcade game, now called Luigi Bros. It's the same gameplay, you just play as 2 Luigis. Pretty cool. This and all the hidden Luigis in the game's main levels were to celebrate his year back in 2013. I wonder if anyone else has been able to spot all those Easter eggs. God damn! Alright, whoever edited this Mario wiki page is cracked out of their mind. Whoever you are, I salute you. But also, are you feeling alright? In my opinion, this game easily tops the list of best Mario games, right alongside the Galaxy series and Super Mario World. And it seems a lot of people agreed, since this game got nothing short of rave reviews across the board. It sits at a 93 critic score and an 8.8 user score on Metacritic. Pretty impressive even considering there were a lot of fans that didn't vibe with the game's direction. Not that it mattered anyway, as the game went on to be the second best-selling Wii U game at 5.89 million units sold. The Switch port plus Bowser's Fury sold 13.47 million to date, which is just nuts in its own right. Completely deserved for this incredible game.
Bring the family together with Super Mario 3D World. It's an all-new adventure in a 3-dimensional world filled with crazy new power-ups and fun new ways to explore a vast new kingdom. It's Super Mario 3D World, rated E for everyone. Wii U system now just $299.99.
Damn, looks like we finally put out an episode to rival Sunshine in length. I hope you didn't feel that too much, and let me know what you think of Super Mario 3D World. Are you like me and adore this game, or are you less enthusiastic about it compared to, say, the Galaxy games or Odyssey? Would love to see you guys' take on it. But before you type out that comment, make sure to sub up so you don't miss the climax of this series. Just one game left to cover. In the meantime, go follow the Twitch channel at Extra Zone Arcade and or subscribe to the YouTube live channel to see some stream silliness every weekend. With that, I leave you with one last thing. Get ready to raise those sails, because next time, we're doing the Odyssey. See you there.